Google continues to confuse website owners and search engine optimization experts alike. Just like last week, I read a blog post on how Candy.com was assessed a penalty in the past and is currently not showing up for any results in Google. We're going to talk to an SEO veteran today that has a new process that might help, and we're going to get an update on SEO that will help you on your business website or on your next development project. Stay tuned. 3 messages before today's show. First, if you're a domain name investor, don't you have unique legal needs that require domain name technical know-how and industry experience? That's why you need David Westlow of Wiley Ryan. Go search for David Westlow on Domain Sherpa, watch his interviews, and you can see for yourself that he is intelligent and articulate, can help you with buy-sell agreements, deal with website content issues and UDRP actions, and can even help you write your website terms and conditions. David Westlow is the lawyer to call for all your internet and intellectual property needs. See for yourself at newmediaip.com. Second, when you have questions about domain names, where should you go to ask them? The answer is dnforum.com. Not only is DN Forum the largest domain name forum in the world, but it's the best. You can learn about domain names in the industry, buy and sell domain names, talk about domain name news, and meet other domainers just like yourself. Register for a free DN Forum account and begin advancing your skills and knowledge today. And when you do sign up, send me a friend request so we can connect. My ID is Domain Sherpa. Finally, whenever I'm thinking of buying or selling a domain name, the very first place I go is estibot.com. Their service provides quick and comprehensive information about the valuation and the critical factors that you need to know about, like other extensions that are reserved, recent sales, search volume, and cost per click rates on search engines. And if you haven't tried their lead generator service for domains you want to sell, you're missing one of the most powerful tools around. Those are the reasons I pay for the service every month. Here's your program. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you come to learn how to become a successful domain name investor or entrepreneur directly from the experts. Oh Google, we love you, but you're always moving the goalposts. It makes sense, I suppose, given that whenever people figure out major aspects of your algorithm, they're going to start gaming it and getting sites ranked high in the organic search results that don't belong there. But for those of us that are blocking and tackling every day in our businesses, we just want to produce great content and we want that content to rank well. So today I invited on an SEO veteran that has a new process that might help those in need. I'd like to welcome Chad Fisher, co-founder of wordsforless.com. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hello, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you, and it's great to have a fellow Seattleite on the show on our nice overcast day.
That's right. And considering we hit 60 for the first time this year, this is about as good as it gets.
I know. Wasn't that great? Like 2 days ago, or what was it? Friday. It was so hot. I had to take off my sweater for the first time.
That's right. I know.
All right, Chad, let's start with this. Why do people, let me rephrase that. Why does Google hate us so much?
Yes, SEO practitioner or SEO is such a dirty word these days with Google. It's very much not in vogue to even say that you do SEO. After the updates over the last really 2 to 3 years, almost every one of them is coming out against companies and people that are practicing SEO, and they're trying to really regulate links, content, lots of different things that people are coming up with. So you have to be very careful these days.
Yeah. So does Google realize that, you know, they created a whole ecosystem around SEO and, you know, it's difficult to figure out, and, you know, they clearly don't want to share all the secrets of how they rank search engine sites well in their search engine, but like it just seems like everything's always changing and it's hard to keep up.
Yes, that's a good point. Once the algorithm initially came out and was so focused on links, everybody adjusted, and after the Florida update in, I think it was 2003, and I wasn't even in SEO at that point, but since then, the focus has definitely been on links. When people are building external links to their site, I mean, on-site architecture content is definitely very important. And the reality is, after these latest, the Penguin update, EMD update, Above the Fold update, it's even more important to have great content on your site. But links are still important. And as far as Google's concerned, I don't see links ever really being extricated from the core of the algorithm itself.
Yeah.
So, but because of these updates, you have to be very careful about the types of links you're building, the type of anchor text that you're using. It's definitely a quality over quantity game these days.
All right. So that's what we're going to dig into in this interview. We're going to dig into why links are so important, how to get good links, how to get the right anchor text, and quality. How do you determine the quality? You know, we're going to talk about everybody's whipping child, ehow.com, and how they've created this massive amount of content, much of which is just really crappy content that they pay people low wages in order to produce, but some of it is really good and it actually walks you through. So, you know, I want to understand from your point what good quality is,
right?
And how you determine good quality from marginal or bad quality, and then how Google might do that on a programmatic
Algorithmic basis. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody always talks about Google, Chad. Why doesn't anybody talk about Bing and Yahoo?
Well, the short answer is there's just not much traffic on Bing and Yahoo, at least from an organic standpoint. There still is plenty of opportunities on Bing and Yahoo, but typically if you are optimizing both content and the links for Google, Bing and Yahoo come along for the ride. And that's the way most people in the industry have looked at it, because if you build your site correctly, Google's going to send you a lot of traffic, but so will Bing and Yahoo. Mm-hmm. But you just have to do a lot of the same things, both from optimizing your title tags, looking at your image, alt tags, getting the proper linking internally as well as externally, adding high quality content. We'll go into some of those things.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that Google's the industry leader in organic search right now, indexing more, prioritizing the better content up, and if you're doing the right things for Google, then Bing and Yahoo just come along for the ride, you'll get the same benefit?
Typically, that's the answer. There are some quirks on Bing and Yahoo. It may be where you could rank in Google in 3 to 6 months. Sometimes Bing and Yahoo it might take a year and a half. But what I've seen historically is that if you do rank in Bing and Yahoo, often those are a little bit stickier. Where Google, especially with all these updates, things are fluctuating quite a bit. With Bing and Yahoo, you may get up there and rank relatively high, and you may stick for 6 months, couple years, and you might not have to do a whole lot. But there's a bit longer grace period just to get up there.
Yeah. So you might get to the top. It might take you longer to get to the top, and then you might hang out more or longer at the top. But as a whole, you're getting less traffic from that top ranking because Bing and Yahoo don't get as much traffic as Google does.
That's correct. Yeah, okay. And you can see it in your analytics when you dig in and look at the factor. It's probably a factor of 5 to 6 times, maybe even 10 times as much, depending on the vertical you're in, the Google traffic compared to Bing and Yahoo.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I see on a lot of my sites as well. How long have you been working in the search engine optimization realm?
Good question. So in 2007, 2008, I started getting involved in SEO, mainly because I bought a couple offline businesses. And I wanted to rank them. I wanted to understand how people got traffic. I wanted to understand AdWords. I wanted to understand web development. So I taught myself a lot of that. And then ever since then, I've started practicing it both on my own, primarily on my own sites, and then when we opened up Words for Less over a year ago, and then my own consulting brand even before that, Pyramid SEO.
Gotcha. So you still do consulting, SEO consulting at pyramid.seo.com?
Yes. Okay. I primarily use that for web development and then my own individual consulting.
Understand. And so the couple of sites that you built that you wanted to rank well, are they at the top of search engines?
Yeah, good question. So the ones that I started with, let's see. When I started, I had my own businesses, and yes, actually, the fencing company, I no longer own it, but it does rank relatively well for a lot of Seattle area fencing phrases.
Oh, you had a Seattle fencing company.
I did.
Wow.
I did. Yeah, and a painting company as well. But nice. 2007 was not the best time to own construction-related businesses, as I'm sure anybody could tell you.
No, they were not. And do you run other business besides wordsforless.com and pyramid.seo.com that you use for lead generation or other purposes?
Yeah, so I'll step back a little bit. So in 2007, when I had those businesses and I needed to get them to rank and I needed to work on their site, I also started to realize I kind of enjoy building sites, getting them to rank, understanding AdWords traffic, Bing and Yahoo a lot more. And so that's when I started to really dive into lead generation and understand, okay, there's a bigger world out there of traffic, and there's certain types of traffic that are much more valuable. And so that's what got started to lead me into building insurance-related websites, online education-related websites. And then that's actually what got me heavier into domaining, because I realized, well, once I started building some of these sites, getting a great keyword domain name like PT Schools or counselingschools.com, or some of the names that I've owned and still do own in the past, these were great assets to buy a great name, build a great site, get that traffic, and sell it off to the different for-profit or online education, really aggregators, everybody from Quinn Street to Brokers Web. There's a lot of those companies that are out there.
Yeah, and you and I met a couple of years ago at Domain Fest, what's now Web Fest, down in Los Angeles. So you clearly understand the benefits of domain names, as you've said. I know a lot of people love to know what the guests have in their own portfolio. How many domain names do you currently have in your portfolios?
Sure. Yeah. Right now I only have about 200. I used to have closer to 400 names, which is, compared to a lot of the guys I've seen on your show, is a pretty small amount. But they're relatively focused. Typically, I would only buy if I had a plan to develop the site.
You would only buy. What if you saw something on the drop that was like, you know, some sort of tradeschool.com, and you're like, hey, it's only $200. You wouldn't pick it up?
I would do it, but usually I would only do it if I had a plan to build it. Unlike, you know, there are obviously people that are in the business of just domaining. I saw myself more as a developer. And if I was buying a name, it was an asset that I could use to build a site, put a very aesthetically pleasing site on there, appealing site, as well as put great content, build links, get the traffic, and sell the leads. Because to me, that was what my business was, and it was easier for me to monetize it rather than buying a name and reselling it.
Right. So you're not buying a name and reselling it, you're not buying a name and developing it and then selling the developed website. You want a cash machine. You want to just produce leads on a regular basis and then sell those to some other party.
I will say that, you know, overall, as I said, that business has changed quite a bit, and we'll get into that a bit with some of the latest updates. So I don't do that nearly as much as I used to, just because Google's done a great job of kind of bifurcating the world into affiliates and real companies. And that's what a lot of these updates, from everything from Panda to Penguin to the EMD update, they've segregated the population of, are you just an informational only sites, getting into the eHow, your example from earlier, or are you only a lead generation site? Are you trying to extract organic traffic from us? And if you are, we're going to make life harder for you, because being a thin affiliate is very difficult, where 3 or 4 years ago, you could throw up almost any site. If it had an EMD on it, you could rank, you get great traffic. It was very easy. Those days are a lot, they're not over in 100%, but they're a lot more difficult now.
Yeah. All right. EMD stands for exact match domain. We'll go into that. And I'm also going to dig into I want to know later in the show, Chad, how does Google tell an affiliate site from a real company site? So don't answer that now. We're going to make people actually watch this show to learn that and learn the tactics that they can do to get a site ranked well. So you said that you've got about 200 domains. Do you mainly focus on any TLD more than another? Do you not care because search engine optimization can go across any top-level domain?
Yeah, good question. Before .com, .net, and .org were definitely the focus, because when exact match domains had more of a bonus, those three they really got the lion's share of the credit.
Yeah.
Now that's been dialed back a bit. I'm not as particular, but I still, if I'm going to buy a name, if I'm going to build a business, it's pretty much going to be on a .com. .net maybe, or .org. .org and edu and online education is pretty effective, in some cases even better than a .com.
Yeah. All right. And if you had to pick 3 of your favorite domain names in your portfolio that are undeveloped, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a hard one for me, because I have developed almost all of the names. There are some lead generation names. I have apartmentleads.com. I've always thought that would be a good one. Yeah. Because of the apartment websites I've had in the past and my affiliation with a lot of lead generation businesses. I mentioned counselingschools.com earlier, another good one that I would love to build out for lead generation, but I have to kind of rethink the model, like I said, which we'll get into a little bit as to why. Yeah. So those are probably the 2. There's a couple of brandable names that I've built out that I really like, but I built on them. I started it. Leadsure.com is one of them. But those are probably the 3. Cool.
So mainly lead generation. You love your lead generation sites.
I would say yes, but like I said, with a caveat that it's much different. Those are the ones historically that I bought a lot of, but not as much anymore.
All right. All right, Chad, let's dig into SEO. Everyone knows SEO is the practice of using specific tactics to rank pages of a website at the top of the organic search results on Google, Bing, Yahoo, and other search engines. We're not talking about the pay-per-click advertising that's at the top. We're not talking about the Google Places that are for local businesses that are just underneath, or any of the ads on the right-hand side. We're talking about organic, regular listings of sites that are in the search engines index. But Google knows that people are always trying to game the system and get sites ranked higher. And they've made enemies out of really cute animals like penguins and panda bears. Which one came first, Panda update or the penguin update?
The Panda update came first.
Okay, and what was the purpose of Panda? What was that fixing in Google's algorithm?
Panda was fixing, if I had to really boil it down to just a short phrase, it was fixing thin content. Large, massive sites, your eHow example was spot on. There's plenty of them like that had hundreds of thousands of pages of very dubious quality. And what it did is the algorithm looked at the sites, and if you had a lot of pages that were thin, they were either there are a lot of fluff words. I don't know if you've ever looked at Google's patent. They actually cut out a lot of the very much unnecessary verbiage that a lot of people use. And if you've ever contracted low quality writers, you'll get a lot of that type of content. And eHow was kind of the king of that. Now, they bounced around a little bit on the different Panda updates, but some of the other bigger content heavy sites got really hammered. They went from maybe, I know I had a particular friend, company in the business, they were doing close to $100,000 a month just on a lead generation site, and on the first Panda iteration, it got hit and went down to about 30 or 35,000 a month. Wow. So basically, the traffic got hit by about 65 to 75%.
Wow, and they were getting most of their traffic from search engine optimization, not from paid ads.
No, it was all organic.
Wow, that's significant. Going from a $1 million business down to a $300,000 business.
Yes.
It
was a wake-up call.
And so I've never heard people refer to the update around fluff words. How would you define a fluff word? Something that doesn't have value in the content.
Well, if you're reading, a lot of people will use these filler words like I should have or could have, a lot of prepositions, not using a lot of strong verbs, just filler, a lot of this filler type language that you'll see it when you know it. It's kind of hard to actually describe, but if you could take a snippet of it and see a lot of that same text in the rest of the web, you're going to know that it's not very unique.
Gotcha.
It is, and it's hard. Like, number one, for some writers, like, they aren't very good at discerning between quality and low quality, and obviously then you kind of need to move on. But yeah, it's a tricky spot for a lot of people. And then simple things like not linking out. A lot of people used to think, well, I want a horde page rank, and I want a page that's got tons. I want lots of words. I'm going to keyword stuff it. I'm not going to put any outbound links. It's actually the exact opposite of what Google and what a reader wants. A reader wants to have value, and when they're looking at an article, they want to get something new, something novel, theoretically, that they've never read before, but they also want to have sources. Mm-hmm. So when you're linking out to other high-quality but logical sources in the article, that's not only is that a great user experience, but that's great for Google as well, because when they're looking at it, they're like, look at this person, this makes sense. This is what a good article should read like.
Yeah, but what happens when you're writing really good content and all the other stuff on the web is really crappy, so you don't want to link to it?
Well, I mean, if you read a New York Times article, you read a CNN article, even on ESPN, any of the major sites that are heavy content producers, they are outbound, they're linking to, if it's a scientific study that's authoritative, if it's just another site in there, a competitor of theirs, if they're doing a review of 10 different apps, well, they're probably linking out to those 10 different apps.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
That makes sense, right? But a lot of affiliate businesses or just people that don't really understand it, they're like, I don't want to do that because I feel like I'm giving up some of my page rank. That's wrong. You need to be linking out to those.
Sure. Okay. And then, so after the Panda update came the Penguin update. And I say update like it's a single binary event. It continues to happen. It continues to evolve over time. But after the major Panda release, then there was a Penguin release that happened. What was the purpose of the Penguin release?
So Penguin was a lot more focused on anchor text, where Panda was very much focused on content, and it attacked large sites. Penguin could hit a site as small as maybe 5 pages, 20 pages. It didn't really matter. It was almost predominantly associated with the anchor text that you were using. And what I've seen, and people have varying opinions on this, is that it was almost entirely focused on commercially focused anchor text. So, for example, and I had sites that were hit by Penguin, one that was maybe hit by Panda, but many that were hit by Penguin. If you were focused on excessive, even if you had an exact match that was a commercially related phrase, you would get, your site would get hit. And you could go from anywhere from, let's say you were getting a couple hundred visitors a day to down to 10, 20. It was pretty draconian how bad it could be if you got hit in the first couple iterations.
So what's an example of a commercially focused anchor text that Google was trying to...
Great question. It could be anywhere. Really, the insurance space got hit a lot. I saw a lot of insurance sites, auto insurance quotes.
Auto insurance quotes, Seattle.
Cheap auto insurance quotes, nursing schools, a lot of the lead generation sites. I mean, granted, doesn't mean Penguin was 100% focused on just these phrases, but that's where it really attacked a lot of people that I know, and people on SEO book that I would correspond with, just lots of different people in the industry. That's, by and large, if you had an affiliate site that was focused on commercial anchor text, you probably were hit by Penguin.
Now, isn't it normal for people who are linking to your auto insurance quote site to say, if you're looking for auto insurance, go visit autoinsurancequote.com?
Yes, but you have to be more careful now, because if it is an exact match domain, like let's say auto insurance quotes in your example there, and you are in a commercial entity, it's a lot different from owning like Bob's Bait and Tackle Shop. If that's in your EMD, which really isn't even an EMD, I mean, it's basically just
it's
like
brandable.
Somebody's branded, it's a brandable name, right? But if somebody keeps linking to you with Bob's Bait and Tackle Shop, it's not going to, as far as I've seen, it doesn't really do a whole lot in terms of Penguin, because Google's able to discern that's Bob's Bait and Tackle Shop. Only people are searching for are the people that really know Bob's company.
Right.
But back to auto insurance quotes, if you have that as your EMD and people are continually linking to you with just that phrase, you could still be in the crosshairs of Penguin. Where before, that wasn't really that much of a problem, because that was logical. If they're linking to you, that's fine. But that was kind of the loophole that Google started to slowly close.
Okay.
Now you have to have a lot of other types of links with don't use any anchor text. Use a naked URL. Use something that's related to members of the company. Other completely unrelated phrases that.
So is it safe to say that Google wants to see diversity in the inbound links to your website? That not any one type of link is bad in massive quantities, but they just want to see natural inbound links as regular people would do. They wouldn't type in anchor text, because who types in anchor text on links, right?
Right. That's right. When you go out and look and you use tools like Majestic SEO or even SEO Moz, Open Site Explorer, those tools, when you're doing link analysis, you'll see that the average Joe, when they're building links, it's the most unbelievable way. It'll be a long sentence with really very little meaning maybe to the company.
Right.
Or
and sometimes the word here will be linked, like click
here. Yeah, that's right. That's a very common one. And so we, as SEO practitioners, and myself included, we kind of got a bit lazy, where that was always supposed to be a good way to do link building. And because it was so effective for a while, you just kind of got focused on those commercially focused anchor phrases, when in reality you always should have been mixing it up.
Now, let's say that you run a really small company, it's Bob's Bait and Tackle Shop, and you just want to rank well for Seattle Bait and Tackle, or Seattle Bait, or Seattle Fishing.
Right.
Can you still get away, if you're a small mom and pop, with using anchor text and using links for Seattle Fishing, and not be hit by Penguin because you're not using a massive commercial search phrase? Okay,
so good question. I think the answer is yes, you can definitely do that, because what these updates, both Panda, Penguin, the EMD, they had an EMD update, they had an above the fold update. Over the last couple of years, they've had quite a few.
Yeah.
Some of them are rolling into the algorithm. Like Panda is actually not even going to be a separate event. Actually, they just announced this a couple weeks ago. It's just going to be part of the normal algorithm when they run it. But each time these new updates come out, it's kind of, as I said earlier in the call, our chat, that it's kind of segregating the affiliates or people that are not kind of a real business, which what Google's trying to drive to. because from their perspective, they win as long as more people start using AdWords, as long as it drives people to using their products more often. Making SEO more difficult is a big win for Google.
Yeah.
I mean, it cleans up. In fairness, it does clean up the SERPs. It does make it more difficult. But back to your question. Yes, you can use anchor text and commercial anchor text as a real company like Bob's Bait and Tackle Shop, but you still need to be careful. You can overdo it as a real business.
Yeah.
The reality is you should probably be creating great content on the site that has to do, if you want to rank for Seattle fishing, come up with 25 different ways or different rivers, different streams that you can go fishing in Seattle, create pictures, do video, have other people link to you. Don't even need that exact match anchor text. The days of just using that to rank, you don't need just that. You can come up with great content. People come at you with just the URL and other types of links. Google will start to figure it out, and you will rank.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. And Google's really targeting, when I worked in corporate America, we had a saying that whatever you incentivize with people's bonuses will get done, right? And so if you look at it in life in general, people will always do the things that pay them money. There are exceptions, clearly. There's people that work for good and do work on great organizations. But in general, in commercial world, people will do the things that earn them more money. And Google is looking at things. They want to clean up bad search. They want to clean up the content in their index that doesn't have as much value to users. And there's a byproduct. By eliminating them, they potentially force them to buy Google AdWords and then figure out a business model where they make money as part of the whole process as well. So my next question that we talked about in the introduction chat is, how does Google tell if you're an affiliate site where your sole purpose is to put up content in order to generate leads that you sell to a third party, or if you're a real company that's actually doing whatever your website says, like providing auto insurance quotes or things like that?
Yeah, good question. They've got a couple different ways. They have the algorithm, I think, is able to sniff that out, but they also have hundreds, if not thousands, of manual reviewers that are looking at it. But we'll talk about some of the
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if people realize that, but there are Google. You can look it up. It's Google Quality Rater Manual or Google Quality Review. Set it like they have a manual that gets leaked every couple years. That shows the different things that they are looking at when they're manually scouring the web, and they take some of that feedback and often will incorporate it into the algorithm. But from an algorithm standpoint, there's a number of things that it can look for. It can look to see, do you have a physical address? An affiliate rarely will have a physical address. Do you have, and I don't, some of this stuff is just, hypothetical, I'm supposing, I don't know for sure.
I don't know for sure, right.
Nobody does, right? But are they looking to see if you have filed an LLC with the state for your business? What's the doing business as name? Do you have a phone number on the site? Do you have pictures or images of people that work at the company? Do you have an About Us page that has details like maybe the schools, the university, just going into the level of detail that a typical affiliate, it's very hard for them to create because they're coming up with just content. Are you using Google+? That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
If you set up a Google Plus account, if you linked it to your content to Google Plus, your Google Plus page, so now when somebody searches for you, your image will show up. An affiliate that has 25 different sites, that's a little harder if you're in 25 different verticals, rather than somebody who's got a real business, Bob's Bait and Tackle Shop. If Bob wants to write all about fishing, that's probably pretty logical.
Yeah.
Those are some of the examples. I think there's actually quite a few, even more.
So if I have an affiliate site that's up and running right now, I can clearly make it look like it's a real business by adding content to it, by putting a physical address, by having a phone number on it, by having an About Us page with my picture on it saying, when you send in a lead, I'm personally reviewing these and here's my education, all that sort of stuff. How often but I don't have that right now, let's say. How often does the Google manual review happen on certain sites, or is there just no way to tell?
Certain verticals get reviewed, I think, a lot more often. Those auto insurance phrases that we were talking about earlier in the call, some of those I bet are reviewed by at minimum an intern at Google, probably every couple days or every couple weeks. Yeah. I've seen sites. There's some great case studies. There's one on a site called Auto Insurance Quotes Easy, It was outed kind of by some people at SEO Moz for ranking very high for some of these phrases and making a couple $100,000 a month, if not more. This was about a year and a half ago. And that was before I think they got as even more aggressive on the manual reviews for some. It's the same thing they do with Viagra, with online education phrases. These are worth lots and lots of money. So now if Google has companies or for those spots, they want real companies ranking there.
How come no intern or manual reviewer has like come out and, you know, gone behind a screen and said, I'm changing my voice and I'm going to tell you all the secrets? How come nobody's done that yet?
Well, remember, the people that they're paying to do that aren't the ones that are ultimately making the final decision. You've got Matt Cutts and the web spam team. They're the ones that are probably, they take that input. They will then make adjustments either to the algorithm, because clearly they want everything, if possible, to run through the algorithm. They don't want to be making a lot of manual changes. They will apply manual penalties, and you'll hear about them. Every once in a while, a big brand will get whacked with a manual Google penalty, but typically they would like the algorithm to take care of it.
All right, so is it fair to say that the way Google is moving in the future is if you have great content, you're going to get more inbound links, and so they're looking at those two criteria primarily to say this should be ranked at the top of search engines, or is that way too oversimplified?
Well, it's a bit oversimplified. There's still, like as I was saying earlier, there's more to it. They're pushing Google Plus really hard and the integration of that. So they're trying to push the concept of author rank. Not just does your content rank and should it rank, how do you as an author rank, and how do you rank in particular niches or verticals?
Okay, so I was going to ask you about author rank. Let me take a moment to talk about Google Plus. Like, nobody's actually on Google Plus. The only people on Google Plus are the people that want to rank well on Google. So,
in many cases, yes, that's right.
You know, it's frustrating because, you know, let's take one example that I have. I run a website called i6sigma.com. It's the #1 publisher and community for Six Sigma professionals, which are process improvement professionals at large corporations. We serve about 70% of the Fortune 100 companies. And, you know, yes, we get a lot of shares on LinkedIn. Some people, if authors are on Facebook, will get a lot of shares on Facebook. But in general, most people at corporations aren't on Facebook because they're being monitored and they don't want to go onto social networks. Same is true for Twitter. You know, it varies in some degree. But Google Plus, nobody is on Google Plus. I can see it from a corporation standpoint. So am I just an exception to that Google Plus rule?
No, you're correct. Like it has not got widespread adoption by any stretch, but you are starting to see it in certain verticals, and clearly the verticals that are related to SEO or people that understand that, you're seeing more and more of it. In fact, I did a search the other day for a phrase, and 4 out of the 10 results showed up with an image next to it, which shows that the person had linked their content on their site to the Google Plus page. That's the only really way to get your image to show up next to the content.
Okay, so Google really wants to see the authors who are on Google Plus promoted, because if I do a search on Seattle SEO and I see your picture and I know you, I'm much more likely to click on it and potentially be more satisfied with the content and like Google more as a result of that.
I think it's their hedge. They've basically built their entire algorithm on links, and they've realized that it's tough. The war against links is one that they're always going to have, because people are going, if links, they created a currency, right? I mean, that's what a link is they've created this market for links. And because of that, they've realized, well, yeah, now we want you all to link, but it's a little tricky. It's kind of complicated now for us to regulate that. So we're going to add another layer of complexity, and that's author rank. And because of author rank, that will make it so that particular authors, we're going to elevate certain content in certain areas because they are, talented. We think they're very much the expert in that area. And I think their answer, the reason they're doing that is because they think it's going to be a lot harder to game that than it is right now to game links.
It's a lot harder to game authorship of content than it is to game links.
Right.
Why would that be? Can't I just buy really crappy content and put it under my name, or am I less likely to do that because it's got my picture associated with it?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And once again, this is all supposition, but with a lot of it, I think that Google circles, and when you're having people add you on Google Plus, the bigger following you have, the more times you show, like if you're showing up on guest posts on authoritative sites, like let's say you're in SEO and you're showing up on Search Engine Land and or Aaron Wall and SEO books, you get on there, you get on SEO Moz, you're getting in those additional locations, you are putting forth high quality content. Google will see that. You're going to have more people that are liking you. Now, granted, this is just so early because nobody's really doing it now.
Yeah.
Because of that, they're able to build a profile and use that profile to then kind of apply like a factor to your content.
Yep.
And then that's, will potentially elevate you above other people.
Yeah. Okay, so I should definitely be doing Google authorship program on Domain Sherpa.
Yeah,
so that
there's no reason not to now. I mean, Google, unless for some reason they go away as a dominant search provider, but I don't see that in the next 5 to 10 years.
So is that a benefit to you if I create this show and it's co-written by myself and you, and then I Google author link you to this, and then you're tied to SEO and
yeah, that's right. If we both had a link to our Google Plus pages that was embedded in the content, yeah, we both would get benefit from that. You even more so being on your site, and depending on how you set up the architecture of linking out your site and all your content. But yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I will look into doing that. Is it just as simple as linking to your Google Plus profile? That's it?
Yeah, there's different ways depending on, like, we build a lot of our sites on WordPress, so there's plugins that you can use, but it's really a back and forth linking. You've got two ways. You want to link the content on your site to your Google Plus page.
Okay.
But on your Google Plus page, you want to also link out to the blogs where you are a regular provider of content. That's another way to tell Google, okay, these are the 4 or 5 sites that I contribute to on a regular basis.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So if you had to give advice to developers, people that are developing websites, people that are developing businesses, then they want to get a lot of traffic from search engines, what do they need to do differently today from a content perspective than what they did in the past?
I think the biggest thing is to step back and before you jump into a project, don't just think about trying to get as much organic traffic as you can get. Step back and holistically look at why am I coming up with this project? Is there a business concept behind it? Because, as I mentioned, with these updates, it's not so much just stepping back and saying, I want to build this site, I want to get organic traffic. It's, I want to build a business. Organic is one of the channels. I need to come up with great content on the site. I need to think about SEO, but I also need to think about, is there a paid search that I need to be utilizing? Do I need to go to AdWords? Do I need to go to Bing or Yahoo? Facebook? You need to think about remarketing. There's just a lot of different types of advertising that you need to consider. And email campaigns, all these different things that a real company would do. So it's not just SEO, where before you could literally come up with traffic, get a site, throw it out there, and you'd get a ton of organic traffic.
Right.
I would step back and say, is there a business purpose or is there a business case for why I'm doing this? And then all those other things will fall into place, but you have to kind of knock them off one by one.
Yeah. Now, what if one of your customers says, yeah, I want to do all that stuff, but I want to make sure my SEO is done first because I know it takes time to mature. What kind of content do I want to be writing today?
Depends on the vertical that you're in, right? So it depends on where you want to compete. If somebody comes to me and says, I'm Steve's insurance agency here in Seattle, and I want to rank for auto insurance quotes.
Seattle. Yeah, auto insurance, Seattle.
Okay, auto insurance Seattle is a little more realistic.
Okay.
Like if they at least had the ability to get more realistic, then I would say, okay, yes, that's a possibility, but you need to step back and think, okay, organically, that phrase, if we looked at the progression of it over the last 7 or 8 years, I would show you an ever failing real estate on the organic side, because you look at Google Maps, you look at how much even the AdWords side has really taken up a lot of the real estate. Mm-hmm. I would say the auto insurance Seattle, number one, just from a overall standpoint, it's not going to drag you as much traffic organically. So yes, it's something that's important, but you need to think about Google Google Places or Google Plus Local.
Yep.
You need to think about getting in the map really, so that you can drag that traffic, because that's going to show above the organic listings probably 90% of the time if somebody types auto insurance Seattle.
Yeah.
So yes, it is important, and there's a lot of architecture things you need to set up on your site so that you can rank for that. You need to think about doing some link building, high quality link building, whether it's guest posting or a number of different ways that you can do link building. But you also need to think about your site design, just a lot of the things a real business should think of before just thinking about organic SEO.
Yep. Okay, so you can architect your site properly for SEO, and then you can go out and you can get into certain organizational directories. Like if you're into auto insurance, you can go join some auto insurance professional organization. You can get
Right.
those sort of high quality directory links coming in.
That's right.
And you can go out and do guest postings. So you can go on to AAA.com, you know, a
Right.
noted authoritative website, and you can publish good content. And if it's good and non-promotional and actually provides value to readers, and AAA publishes it, then that comes with a lot of value to your website. Not
That's
only
right.
in real people clicking through to your website and maybe the bio line, but also as passing through that link juice from AAA.com.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
So
That's a
those
huge
are all
part.
the right ways to do SEO. Are the days when you could go on to ezinearticles.com and post there and spin out articles and then post it onto a million different websites, are those days finally over?
From my perspective, yes. I don't really see. There are ways I think you can still do that. It's what's happened is because of without getting too technical, the way Penguin works, it's a batch process right now. I think it'll slowly get rolled into the algorithm like Panda does. But the last Penguin update rolled out in late September, early October. So you have these time frame, these windows where you can exploit them, and the people in the high dollar verticals are. And even if they get a site to rank for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, it's worth a lot of money. So at the very high level for certain things, I think you can still exploit it, but it's not worth it for the majority of people because why try to fight that? That window will continue to close down. So really, as we've been saying pretty much for the whole call, it's
So
that
if you're
fight
building a real business, don't do those.
no,
Don't
no,
do any system
yeah,
that you can read on the web that says they're going to get you 1,000 backlinks for
right.
$100, or they're going to spin 1,000 articles from your one article that you've written and get it out and have all these links. None of that get rich quick, get ranked well overnight system works long term.
No, it's a quality over quantity. Definitely. That's what, yeah, they're driving that home big time.
How do people know if they hire an SEO consultant and they're a scammer versus they're a real quality provider?
Aaron Wall, I was just reading on SEObook.com on his blog. It's a very, very authoritative, very great site. If you're in the SEO industry, most everybody's read it. And so he just had a great post. I didn't even get a chance to read all of it. It was right before our call here. But it was great SEO is expensive. It's not cheap. And that's part of the problem with a lot of the SEO practitioners out there is that $55 for 1,000 backlinks sounds fabulous. I mean, everybody, a small business owner doesn't have a lot of money. They're going to be like, okay, it's a quantity over quality game. Sign me up. I only have a couple $100s to dedicate to SEO. Let's do this. And the problem is 3 years ago, you might have achieved a bit of a benefit from that. Worst case, the reality is it probably just didn't do a whole lot. Didn't help you, didn't hurt you. Now it can hurt you. You have to be very careful. That money that you spend, it's not like those links, because Google, they've shifted their tact on, you can use the disavow tool, and you can go out and try to get people to remove links, but that's a painful situation to have to be in.
Yeah, and I've got some people that I know that have had to go and do that because they paid people, hundreds of dollars or a couple $1,000, and they just spun things out and put all these terrible links out there, and I feel for them.
It's painful. Yeah, I've dealt with some people, a lot of people in the industry that have had to do the same thing, and it's a lot of work. Yeah.
So you've started a new company. It's a relatively new company called wordsforless.com. What does wordsforless.com do?
Great question. The two primary things that we do are content. Really, that's actually the core of the business is content. So we do on-site content, and we do off-site content for the purpose of guest posts.
Okay. So your number one priority is to write good content on behalf of your customers.
That's right.
Why don't they just write it themselves? They're the experts on the topic.
Most of the time, it's time and resources. So we go back to our Bob's Bait and Tackle Shop example. Bob may be running his business, 90 hours a week or 80 hours a week, only has so much time dedicated to writing quality articles for his site,
right,
and or doing any sort of guest posting or link building offsite. And so somebody like that would hire us, and they'd contract. So typically, I guess I'll step back a little bit. Words for Less, 90% of the time works with other agencies.
Right.
So we
agencies
rarely
hire you to do the work. Okay.
That's right. They hire us. to come up with great content, come up with a content strategy. Like, what are the different things that we can write about for this client? What are the things that we can say? What can we not say? What do they like to focus on? Who can we not link out to? Who can we link out to? What kind of, do they want internal links? Do we need to load this on their blog for them? Do they want an image in the content? Do they need idea generation? Content is pretty messy. There's a lot of pain that goes into doing it and doing it well.
Yeah.
And that's where we help with.
So you help with the entire strategy and set up a game plan, the tactics that you're going to execute. And these are pretty much long-term contracts. You're not coming in and writing a single article mostly. No. These are agencies who are working with large companies that need help. The agencies do a host of different services, including social media marketing and video marketing and all these sort, buying ads, buying placements on TV, doing maybe public relations, and then they hire you to help with the content creation.
That's exactly right. We are a piece of the puzzle for their service delivery. And
got it.
Where they will be providing the client with a status report, every couple weeks or every month, and you're exactly right. It will have video creation, it will have local citations, it will have any media buys they're doing, and then, oh, by the way, here's the content we created for you on your site, and here's any of the guest posting that we've done for you offsite.
So customers are basically coming to you and trading money for time. You can produce content that may be more in depth, maybe better polished, maybe have an infographic, maybe have, something custom, maybe you do video, whatever it is, you produce the content for them. How is it that you know more about the content than the customer does? Or do you work with the customer to get the content and then you write it?
Couple things. The first is, you're right, we're never going to know the business better than the actual client. So we always leave it up to the client. If they want to edit, some clients are more hands-on. They will edit, and that's perfectly fine. But if anybody that's ever gotten into writing realizes it's a lot easier to edit than it is to create.
It is.
And so some site owners, that's perfectly fine. They would get in there. If they want to edit, hack it up, we encourage that because it shows that they care and they're interested and that they're responding to the work that we're doing. So that's perfectly fine. The other way that we haven't touched on a lot of is we manage the process through tools and through software. So we have a dashboard for our agencies that they can log into. They can track the status of every piece of content. They can see where it's at from a work in process standpoint. Is it from the very beginning, like, is it writing? Has it been edited? After it's been edited, has it been posted out to a site? Has it been loaded up with an image? They can look at all those different statuses and see, okay, where is it at? How are we doing? And then they can communicate that to their end client.
Yeah, it's a slick workflow system that you've showed me in the past, and it's similar to an Odesk or something like that, where you might hire a writer to do a single or multi-piece, but it actually goes into more in depth. And
right.
And being a publisher myself and working with a team of editors and then authors on top of that and our own editorial team, I know that it is a painful process to produce great content, and having the right tools are important in doing that. So I understand your business. I understand the business model. Do you mainly work with customers that are long-term? If I came in and I said, hey, Chad, I need these 2 articles. Will you work on a per article basis, or are you mainly working long-term with companies?
You work on a per article basis. So we will take those orders. That's fine. It's not a problem. I mean, clearly we're looking for an agency type relationship or a larger business that will keep us around on a sustainable, recurring basis. Mm-hmm. But we will take those. That's fine. I mean, it just depends that we may not be the right fit. In some cases, like you said, going to an Odesk, a text broker, another third party, if you want to go through a lot of those steps yourself, and if you don't have the budget to hire a company like us, that totally makes sense.
Sure.
But there, like you said, you have to then endure kind of that pain on your own, which,
right,
as we both know, everything from finding the right writer to editing to coming up with the topics it's a lot of work.
It is, and good content is not cheap. I can go on to Odesk and hire somebody to write, an article about Bainbridge Island where I live, and it'll probably be decent because there's a lot of content out there on Wikipedia or various sites that can be assimilated and created and people can get a feel. But if I have to hire somebody to write a technical article for i6sigma.com, they're not going to be able to get it unless they go out to the library and do the research, unless they go buy some books, because the library doesn't have a lot of books on this, a very technical, business-oriented topic, and they can't get it online. So if they're only going online to do their research and then write something, it's going to be crappy. It's just not going to be good content.
That's right. Yeah, you got to pay for good content. When you're
Yeah.
getting something very technical, like you're for Six Sigma, you're up probably the 10, 15, even maybe even 20 cents a word range. And that sounds like a lot, but if they're coming up with a very compelling article, it's worth it to you because you're going to get a lot of traffic. It gives you a lot of professional credibility.
Definitely. So what are the sweet spots of words for less? Where do you like to operate, and where's it not a good fit if somebody wants good content created? How much do you charge? What kind of word lengths? What kind of
Sure.
topics?
Yeah, good question. So the typical article is about maybe 500 to 750 words. It just depends. Some people want up to, if we're doing a project for another agency, they want everything to be 1,000 to 1,500.
Yeah.
But then you kind of break it down to a per word cost. We usually start around 8 cents a word,
Hmm.
which is on the high end. If you go to a marketplace or any broker, you're gonna probably start at 3 to 4 cents.
Yeah.
But like I said, because of all the extra things that we're doing and managing it, that completely, from our perspective, justifies the cost, and it shows because a lot of the agencies continue to keep ordering from us. But that's the starting point for on-site content. For off-site content, as a guest post, it will start around $85 for a guest post and can go up as high as, we just placed one. I can't say where, but it was $1,500. It just depends on where somebody wants it, what it takes to create it, where it's going to eventually end up, who the audience is, what the vertical. Certain verticals, take Six Sigma. That's a lot more difficult to write about than if somebody comes to us and wants to write a piece on a celebrity. That's going
So
to
if
be much
somebody comes
easier.
to you, and there's a lot of companies out there that sell training, Six Sigma training. A lot of the university have gotten into this, and there are organizations out there that just sell leads to universities. So if one of them comes to you and says, "Hey Chad, I want to be published on isixsigma.com because it's the largest community and they have peer review and it's really difficult, but if I get an article through, I know it'll have a lot of value." That would be your perfect client, right?
Yes, that's right.
So
Yeah, that
then
that
they would
yeah,
come
go
to
ahead.
you and say, "I don't know what to write about to get onto Six Sigma." How would you even handle that?
Yeah, no, some of our clients or agencies will come to us, and it's not so much they have just a specific site in mind. They might say, well, we want to get on a particular range of tech sites, or we want to get on a particular industry-specific site. Doesn't have to be this one, but we want sites like this.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, I mean, we'd have to quote them. It's really a custom project at that point, where we would have to go do the legwork to try to make a connection, see if we can get in the door, and then we obviously have to come up with content that's quality enough that will be accepted at that site. And
right.
that's a lot of hard work to do that.
It is, and it's a lot of work that may not pay off. You may
That's right.
actually, write a great article that might not be accepted, or
Yep,
it might not be accepted for 6 months based on their editorial queue, or who knows what. Do you
you
still
got
get
it.
paid either way because you're still doing the work and still pounding the pavement?
Yeah. Well, the way we structure our arrangements is we will do a little bit of homework ourselves. So we'll find out, like, is this even feasible? Somebody comes to us and says, okay, I want an article in the New York Times. Well, it's not going to happen unless they have an in or they have somebody that they know.
Right.
If they take a step down and look at, okay, some of the sites that are below that, they still are very, very strong. Maybe they have a niche following. We'll contact them. Maybe we'll do a little bit of groundwork and then we'll quote them. We'll say, okay, we think it's going to cost X for us
Yeah.
to come up with a piece, create it, and then approach them and then go from there. And, if we might, in some cases, we might have an existing relationship, so we'll know already. Okay, yes, we can get in there, but it just
Yeah.
depends. We're not like, where ad networks sprung up very popular over the last 10, 15 years. We're not a content network because we don't own or operate the sites that we work with. It's very much manual relationship, but we are a sort of a virtual manual network from the standpoint of we're connecting people who want content and publishers, and we're connecting those dots so that they can get content out to different locations.
Yep. So the whole idea is really good content, and being a publisher of content, good from not good, and then you either put it on somebody's website so that they'll get more links coming in because it's really good content, or go find great websites and get it onto those websites, and build those relationships and get it published and work it out, work at any issues they have. And basically, you're doing that for a fee. But anybody can go do that. If I run an
Yes.
SEO company, I can go contact Aaron Wall and say, "Hey, Aaron, I'd like to guest post on SEO book. Are there any topics that you feel are missing? I would love to write a really in-depth piece which has original research and stuff like that. I know you can't guarantee me, but the placement, but if I provide you a great article, will you at least review it? And of course he's going to say yes. And then I have to go and write it. So anybody can do what you're doing.
Yes.
It's not rocket science. You're just saying really good content is probably going to be shared a lot on social media. It's probably going to have a lot of links coming back. And if it gets published on an authoritative website like SEObook.com, you're going to get an authoritative link back to your site.
Yes, small business owners should be doing that. I mean, that's just but like you said, it goes back to the question: do they have the time? Do they have the resources?
Right.
But if they do have the time and the inclination, and even before you go out and hire a company, even like ourselves, you probably should do some of that work yourself to find out and see, is it something that you like doing? Are you able to do it? Are you capable? Are you getting much traction?
Right.
And then you can figure out, okay, either yes, this is great, I'm good at it, I have a sort of natural proclivity to doing this, and I enjoy it, or it's painful. I need to get somebody else involved.
Yeah.
And even with the agencies that we work with, they will often do this themselves, but there's just so much volume of work they're getting, they use this kind of as overflow. Right. So that's very common.
So do you call this content marketing? What do you call this?
That's a pretty good phrase to use for what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're content generation, content creation, but it also is content marketing. I mean, it's still under the guise of SEO because a lot of people, that's the purpose of, I'm not going to sugarcoat that aspect, but that is the new sort of phrase that a lot of people are using for what we're doing is content marketing.
Yeah, but then it also has the additional benefit that you can take that really good content and you can package it up as a book or a pamphlet and take it with you to conferences that you're speaking at or you have a booth at, or if you actually meet with a client, you can put it into a nice, beautiful folio and give it to them so it makes you look like you're the expert that you are. There's a lot of additional benefits to that content for marketing that's beyond the benefit of online. But basically, Google is looking at this content marketing online and saying only the people that really care about this are going to put in the money and the time and the resources to do it.
That's right. It's a higher barrier to entry. And like you said, there's so many other purposes. It's not, yes, we do stuff for on-site and off-site content. We're getting approached for lots of different types of projects. We have a medical company that came to us and said, we want to write a learning series about our products. Yes, we know the product very well. We don't have the time to come up with 30 articles, 50 articles that are just going to walk through each of these products and how they are going to benefit nurses and hospitals. So we're doing that. So there are lots of other types of projects that we're starting to take on that are, rather than just developing content for somebody's site or blog.
Awesome. All right, here's the final question, Chad. We understand that content has a higher barrier to entry, and Google's saying, they've always said we want good content. We want that good content to flow to the top. That's what makes our business worthwhile, and that's how we can charge advertisers to be on our site. So if good content is the future of Google and getting, the search engine optimized traffic, the organic traffic from search engines, what's the future of content marketing? Will it always be just good written text? Do people need to start looking at video, audio?
Visual content is it already has started to take off. If you're familiar with, or if your audience is with infographics, that's a huge industry. There's people, we work with some infographic companies to help distribute infographics once they get created, try to find external sites to work with them. Video, yes. I mean, creating video for your site is very compelling, and if you have just from a user experience standpoint, if somebody comes onto your site and they want to understand what your product, what your business, what your service is, if they can watch a video and interact with it, that's a very enjoyable experience, and most people are going to do that. And so yes, content is not just words and text and images, it's shifting to video and other more dynamic forms of content.
Yeah. All right. If you have questions for Chad, please post them in the comments below this video, and we'll ask him to come back and answer as many as they can, whether it's related to content marketing, search engine optimization, his business, where the future is going, any of those questions, come post them. You can follow Words for Less on Twitter at twitter.com/words_for_less. Chad, if people want to contact you and say thank you for coming on the show and educating us about SEO and where Google and Bing and Yahoo are heading in the future, what's the best way they can do that?
Email is probably the best way. I would just send an email to info@wordsforless.com. I monitor that email all the time, and yeah, very easy. Very happy to respond to any questions.
Excellent. Chad Fisher, co-founder of wordsforless.com. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your strategies and tactics for ranking well on the internet, and thanks for being a domain Sherpa.
No problem at all, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next
Bye.
time.